new to Blender 4.1 is the new animation system, some keyboard shortcuts, and the way we auto keyframe. So you need to download Blender 4.1 and above in order to follow the lesson, because if you're using any versions of Blender other than 4.1 and above, you will not see the options that I'll be showing. Okay. In the description, there's also a link to the finger model that you can use for free. Okay, let's get started. So we're talking about Armature, okay? And let me delete the lights and camera in there, so we only have the finger model. We're also working in material preview right here. If you go to the rendered one, it'll be dark like so. So we'll be working on this particular one exclusive, and we're going to be going to the front viewport. Okay, so if you're in the front viewport, the finger is positioned centered to the world. Okay, so whenever I get the armature, add armature, it'll be inside dead smack center to the beginning of the world. Let me go to wireframe mode so you can see where that is. Okay. So the way you would want to create your bone, it would be the orientation of the bone in real world. Okay, so if I go to tilde right here and then go to right side, this is most likely the viewport where we want to set up our bone, because the way the finger curl. Okay, kind of like when you create your bones for a leg, you want to position them in the viewport where it would actually bend for the knee. Okay, so the way it works with armature is that you use one armature per object that you are going to be animating. Like for an entire character, you would use one armature. You could use multiple, but that complicates things regarding what gets automated. Okay, so for now, one armature basically is for your object. So you don't want to be seeing multiple armatures here. We're not using multiple armatures to create multiple bones. Okay, so the armature bone has like 3 modes. Object mode obviously is when we move the entire armature. Edit mode is this where we edit it. This is where we can rename, parent, and position the bone. Okay, and extrude the bone. And then finally pose mode. This is when we can add constraint to it, like automation, like inverse kinematics, and actually animate it, hence pose mode. Okay, so let's go to our object mode first, so we could see that that we are moving this in the the whole bone. Okay, when I press G here, I'm going to position right here. Okay, all right. When I go to edit mode, I can grab the head part, okay, and then press G to kind of position it where we think the bone might be, okay, or the joint, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to go to material preview here so we could see our mesh better, but the bone is hidden inside. So while it's selected, okay, I can go to its object tab right here, viewport display. I want to turn on in front, so that will force the bone to always be shown regardless. Okay, and then I'm going to click on name also, so it displays the name of each joint. Okay, in order to do and show all the joint parts, we need to go to the data of the armature right here. Okay, the armature tab, and then click on names, and that will show that bone name. Okay, so I'm going to select this one here. I'm going to press E to extrude and go for the next joint right there, and then another one for the top. All right, and as you can see here, I gave it kind of like an inclination on when to curve, right? We don't want this bone kind of bending this finger the other way, so I gave it a slight inclination on the creation of the bone. And of course, you can still grab parts of the joint right here, and you can move it in precision. Nothing is set to stone. Okay, and again, we're doing all this in edit mode. Okay, so edit mode, we get to name, rename, parent, unparent, and extrude and set up your bone. Okay. Pose mode, again, is to rotate the bone, move the bone, animate the bone, and then add constraints like inverse kinematics. So don't be confused regarding where you can do what. You'll find it easily that if you try to parent bones within pose mode, it will not work. You can parent objects though in pose mode, but not the bone itself. Okay, so we go back to edit mode. Let's rename the bone, okay, because it says here bone 1. We're just going to change the name so that the very bottom here, it will say bone 01, okay? This one, bone 02, just so that we know we have ascending names. All right, then bone 03 right here. All right, so when we think of bone 1, that's going to be at the bottom. Okay, so regarding the bone setups, you can see it's dead center. Okay, it's inside the actual mesh. We are actually done. So we will do a forward kinematics on the first pass right here, and then we will do another inverse kinematic setup after. Okay, so what I want you to do at this point is to save your file as a different name. We're going to call this one Finger for Rigging Lesson. I'm going to put FK in there for forward kinematics. Okay, just so that we can go back to this state right here. We don't need to recreate the bone when we do our inverse kinematics. So let's explain forward kinematics real quick. Forward kinematics is simply animating your bone structure as if you're doing it per joint, like stop motion, like you would rotate the bicep, the forearm, then the wrist, and the finger one at a time. Okay, so there's no automation. Even though I say it's like stop motion, there's still ways that we can do to this structure right here where we can do a little bit of automation. Okay, but let's get started first with combining the two together. So we want to select the mesh first, the finger. Okay, remember we are adding the bone to the mesh, so we're selecting the mesh first, and we're gonna shift click any part of the bone which will select it. You can tell here that you did the selection correctly when you see your model has this darker orange outline as opposed to the light one. Okay, after that we're gonna parent, so Control P. Okay, and then we want to set the parent with automatic weight. So that means Blender will figure out the position of the bone and then do its own calculation and distribute the influence of this bone to this area. So high concentration on where the bone is, and then there'll be a mix of influence here so that it doesn't just cut this and make it look a little bit more natural. So Control P with automatic weights. Okay, so now we are all done. If I select just the body right here, or the finger, if we go to the modifier, okay, an armature is added. Okay, I added a subdivision surface to the finger right here so it looks smooth and whatnot, but the armature is below it right here. Okay, so you can change the order here, it doesn't matter, because we can get rid of the subdivision surface to see what it looks like, faceted and low poly. Add that after. Where's our generate? There we go. Subdivision surface, and then we want 2 by 2. Okay, and there it is. Okay, so now we can now select the bone. I'm going to go to the tilde right side and let's animate. Okay, well, let's pose first. All right, auto keyframe is on by default. Okay, auto keying. This is new here because you have now have an option to auto key using active keying set, which only keys what you're actually animating, and it doesn't create static keys. Like if you're not scaling before, when you auto key, it keys everything. So now it's a very specific. Okay, so we'll show that when we get to that part. But now we're going to go to pose mode, and then let's just see how this deforms. So if I select the first, the bone tree right here, and then press R to rotate, there's, oops, I did it too fast. Okay, there's the deformation right there. Okay, how's the weight mapping? Probably it's decent, but as you can see here with this bone being rotated, it's affecting a lot of the flesh right here, which belongs to this one. But it's still not bad. Okay, I'm gonna press R on this one. All right, there we go. You can rotate it the other way, of course. It's just not going to be cool with your animation, but I think it's creating some really nice folds there. Okay, weight mapping is not really kind of like an issue. Okay, press rotate on this one. All right, so we are now be able to animate this simply by rotating each bone, so on and so forth. Okay. We can also go to the front right here and we can animate this. Not suggested, but you can. All right, so you'll get to that freaky point right there where you're not going to like your stuff. So how do we reset that to the way it was? So if you press A to select all the bones or just one bone, then you press Alt and R, which is the rotation. Okay, it will put it back to the way it was. So that's how you kind of reset that. Okay, so if you go to pose right here, you can also clear the transform right here. Okay, so if you click all, it will reset the movement, rotation, and scaling, or you can just go Option or Alt R for rotation and then grab. So there it is. If you're using a tablet or you don't have a keyboard available, that's where it'll be. Okay, so now let's do our auto keyframing. So as you can see here, I'm on frame 176, so I keyframed that by accident. So let me press X here to delete that keyframe. Okay, let me go back to frame 1. Okay, and let me lower this to, let's say, just 50 frames, and then let's just kind of move this, and then we can just zoom in on 1 to 50, concentrate on that area. All right, so auto keyframing and keyframing. So now the keyboard shortcut that used to be I is now K. All right, so if I press K right here, it brings up keying. What do you want to rotate? Okay, I mean animate. Look, movement, rotation, or scale, or just a combination of several things. Okay, you can just do 2, so on and so forth. So let's not complicate things. We're just keyframing. It's either rotation, movement, or scaling. We're not even going to scale the bones here. We're not going to do any of that. Okay, it'll just be what it is. Okay, so I'm going to press N for our sidebar to show under item what's being keyframed right here. Okay, so if I move this, if I rotate this finger right here, okay, like so, and then I press K, I can then select very specific what kind of movement is that, right? But it knows by default, as you can see here, it already did the just rotation only. And when we're in the Quaternion setup, okay, which is basically what we want just for curling this finger, but you have also an only active keying set available right here where you can just keyframe, automatic keyframe using what's active only. So you can have a selection here on what's being animated, and then it'll only animate that. But for our purpose, this will be just fine right here because it's already selected that, and there's no location available. There is scaling, however, but we're not going to animate that. Okay, so we animate that and kind of position it as a resting state, and that'll be the start. Okay, so here let me animate this also, or kind of position it just so that we have automatic keyframes on this, and it starts kind of like curved like this. Okay, let's now animate this in forward kinematics. For the sake of demo, let's go to 24, 1 second worth of animation, and then we'll animate this kind of going straight like that. And when you drag your timeline, there's your animation. So we're the problem here on the weight map is we're seeing a lot of this kind of loss of mass right here. So I probably want to increase the influence there a little bit. I do like the folds, but we're just missing, we're losing a lot of that mass. Okay, so what we want now that we kind of animated this, so we can always check our animation if we need to, we can now go to the next process. So that's how you do forward kinematic animation. And now we're going to go to our weight mapping. Okay, so in order to do this and fix the deformation that's happening here, we need to go to object mode, select the finger. Okay, but in order to actually see, this is a new feature in Blender 4.1 where you could see a bone selection icon, is you need to be able to select the bone while painting. Okay, so you don't need to go to your vertex group in order to select the bone like so, but you can definitely let me just kind of clean this up because I have the old bones in there, so we only see those groups. Okay, so select the bone first, the armature, shift click. Okay, shift click the finger, then go to weight paint. Okay, so again, let me do that again. Select the bone first, shift click the finger, go to weight paint. Now the select bone is turned on right here, meaning whatever it is we want to paint, okay, and change the influence, we can Alt or Option click the bone, and that will be the one that we'll be working on. Okay, so if I'm holding down Option or Alt right now, when I click this bone, that means whatever I'm painting is all for this bone right here. So let me click undo on all that painting. Okay, so I do want to add influence. Okay, here the way it works is that bones, I mean the color, when it's red, that means full influence. When it's blue, no influence at all. Okay, so let's say I don't want this bone affecting the tip or the bottom of this finger. I can then switch to my brush right here. I'm on subtract, which is what I want. So if I paint right now, right here, you can see it got darker blue. That means I lost influence on this area when I move or rotate this bone. Okay, but I do like this kind of shared color right here. That means I'll have softer creasing on this finger. Okay, but here at the bottom, I want to make sure this is all blue right here, which looks like it is. I just want to make sure that the influence, okay, all right, I'm increasing the blue right here, so I'm just giving it a little bit more influence for bone 3 and less of bone 2. Okay, all right, there you go. So now we can kind of see right there that I increased the influence and it's barely bending right here. So we're still working on this bone. So you can see here in the vertex group right here, it's bone 2. I do want to add now influence. So I'm going to go add. Okay, and when I paint here, I can change my brush size. Okay, I can change the strength and how much weight, okay, is being added. So one is like pure influence right here. So I don't want pure influence. I just want to add a little bit more mass. So I'm going to go 0.7 right there. And when I paint here, so you can see, let me move my animation so it's kind of straight like so. I just want to add, maybe that's too much right there. So let's lessen the strength and the weight. Okay, I do want to add, but I don't want too much. Okay, right there. So this bone now will affect that. And let's see. All right. Okay, I do like that it's has more mass now. So if I go to object mode right here, and then we could see that. All right, so it doesn't shrink anymore by adding that kind of painting right there. And okay, That's not bad at all. Okay, so now let's add some automation to this. Even though this is forward kinematics, we can still do some automation on this, okay? Again, this is manual animation. When you go to post mode, okay, you get to kind of play like with an action figure where you would rotate all those limbs. Okay, so let's change this one to no animation here. So I'm going to select everything, okay? Alt-R to reset. I'm going to select all the keyframes right here. Press X, delete keyframes. Okay. So let's add some automation. All right. So while we are in post mode, you can't do this in edit mode. You have to be in post mode. Okay. I'm going to select this bone right here and add a constraint to it. Okay. The constraint is going to be copy rotation. Copy rotation simply means it will copy the rotation of another bone. Okay. So we want to set this up. So the target is the armature because we only have one armature, right? So there it is, armature. Okay. The bone that it wants to copy would be bone 1. So when I rotate this, it will do the same rotation for bone 2, which eliminates some counter animation for us if we just want to curl the finger. Okay. So this only works when you're curling a finger because otherwise you can't control the other bones anymore because they're only being controlled by one. So which bone? It will be bone 1, okay? And kind of did that kind of freaky stretching, which is fine, okay? We're just setting it up. So we're going to select this bone 3 now. We're going to add the same copy rotation, same armature, but we want to copy the one below it, which is bone 2, okay? And it kind of stretches like that, which is fine because when you try to rotate this now, it's not going to work, okay? Because we need to change the target and owner space for this to local space, okay? So if I select bone 2 right here, by default, it's world space. So change this to local space, owner, local space. This one as well, target, local space, owner, local space. When I do rotate this now, the other ones automatically rotate. Okay, so you can't do this type of animation if you just want to curl up to here because now you lose the ability to rotate this because they're relying on this. So this is good if you just want to kind of relax your fingers and curl them and not necessarily animate them kind of standing up from this joint and just rotating from this. You lose that ability. Okay, so it's good to, you can just kind of go like this and then kind of relax and you can animate them going. Okay, and you can also set a limit on what they can be animated to, but it's fine with this setup. Okay, there's also an influence right here. So meaning when I rotate this, it does a full copy rotation. Okay, so I'm going to go like so. So you see the influence right here. So when I go here, okay, and then I change the influence, the less I give it of an influence, there'll be kind of like a lag on the rotation. So when I click this one, it does the same thing. Okay, right there. All right, so when I rotate this now, it doesn't go fully rotated all the way until I get to this one. Okay, so there'll be kind of like a lag. So that's a great kind of technique whenever you have a forearm multi-bone setup so that the skin doesn't rotate exactly when the elbow and the wrist are. There's a lag or an offset on the rotation. Okay, so this kind of completes our animation lesson for forward kinematics, not unless you want to kind of keep animating this. So if I go right here and then let's say we go to frame 20, okay, and I do a rotation. Oops, sorry. Kind of like so. Automatic keyframes it. All those bones are rotated. And there's our forward kinematics animation. Okay. So now we're going to go switch to part 2 and do the inverse kinematics. Okay. And we're going to start with the previous one, which is we saved it as finger for rigging less than FK. And this is what we're going to start on.